go ahead and get started.
Perfect, thank you.
Because some people want to leave early at 8 o'clock tonight, so we'll make sure we get done by 8 o'clock. My name is Dave Simon. I'm the Vice President of the area group. The area group is called CHASEN. It represents the Citrus Heights areas 7, 8, and 9. Corresponds with the City Council District 2. And we have our District 2 City Councilwoman here with us tonight, Marjane. Also like to introduce all of our board members that are here tonight. Kathy Minton, our secretary. Boy, I have to remember who
Over
was
there.
the last all of
They're around here somewhere.
And,
You will be tested.
Treasurer is Diane Louise. Director Stephanie Martinez in the back. Director Tina Harrington over here. And Information Officer Steve Whittington. And Kathy Morris is our reach representative. And I introduced myself, so now you know everybody. Let's welcome and introduction. Welcome everybody that's here tonight. Thank you for coming. Tonight is election night, so you'll be asked to vote in a few minutes. First, we'll go through the minutes.
They were already distributed.
Okay, those have been distributed. If you don't have any questions about the minutes, then they're accepted as written. The treasurer's report is also on the agenda. If you didn't pick one up, there is one at the back. We have $2,192.73 in checking and $498.43 in savings. And that's the treasurer's report. So the next thing on our agenda is our impact report from Lieutenant Wells. And he also brought his friend Ellie with him.
All right, thank you. Not a lot of applause for anybody. Thank you guys for having me. Been a busy day, so we were glad we were able to get by here. We were running into a little time crunch. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Mike Wells. I'm a lieutenant with the police department. I currently oversee our patrol division. And part of my ancillary duties, I have the SWAT team and I have our traffic team, are two of my side gigs that I kind of oversee. And then the other one is, of course, Ellie. Ellie is our therapy dog for the police department. And some of you folks have always heard about her, but for those who don't, Elle, sit. There you go, down. There you go. So her job is basically at the department. She's not an apprehension dog, not a narcotics dog. Her job is to go around the police department and calm everybody down. So we go to a lot of crazy calls, a lot of stressful things. Her job is to decompress the room, and that's what she does. So for those of you who haven't met Ellie, that's what she's here for. So what I was asked to come talk to tonight a little bit, though, was about fentanyl. So I am no expert in fentanyl. I worked about 5 years undercover back in the day between Oakland PD and Citrus Heights PD. We dealt with a whole lot of different drugs in fentanyl. So I am not an expert. I am not a chemist. I won't be able to answer some of the questions you may have, but I'm going to give you kind of a high-level overview of what we're dealing with fentanyl. I'm actually going to pass these around so you can start these. And I'll leave these for you just to get a fact sheet about fentanyl. So does anybody know what fentanyl is? When I even say that word, does it ring any bells? It's killing people, a lot of people. Does anybody have any idea its origins or where it came from? Okay, so fentanyl basically was created in 1959 by actually a doctor, and it was an anesthesia, basically. It's a medicine that we utilize, and that's what it was used in the past for. Now what's happening is the cartels, it's actually coming in through China, India, and the Mexican cartels are now shipping it in. That's the main producers of this. What they found out, and again, don't go in the chemist side of this, but they found out trying to keep crops like marijuana and cocaine crops, those things can be affected by weather, all kinds of different things. These synthetic chemicals that make fentanyl aren't impacted by those types of deals. So they can make them in illicit labs year-round, no problem. And basically, they are so dangerous. To give you an idea, just a small amount is 100 times more potent. 100 times more potent than morphine. And you guys know what morphine does as far as the folks that have ever had it or heard about morphine drips. 100 times more potent and 50 times more potent than heroin. It is no joke, and it is absolutely a killer that we're dealing with right now. To give you another perspective on it, if you look at your thing, look at that penny. See that little speck next to it? Just a few grams, basically that's like salt. That's a fatal dose. right there. So that's what we're dealing with out there in the streets, is these fatal doses that are in these things. Now, fentanyl can be added to current drugs. They can sprinkle it onto heroin. They can sprinkle it into methamphetamine. They're using pill stamps where they make them into pills like oxycodone, Oxycontin. And what's happening is people don't know the deadly amounts that are in these things, and they take them, and that we're having these overdoses. So again, that little amount there can absolutely kill someone. And that's the scary part of what we're dealing with out there. And it can happen just to the touch. One of the things I'll talk about a little bit is how our officers get impacted by it, but folks will snort these fentanyl drugs. They'll put it on cocaine, or they'll take aluminum foil, put it on there, they'll heat it, and they'll take in the fumes, and that's how they'll do it. It's basically a euphoria for them. They get so high, and they're almost kind of just pass out. And they're out, we respond, well, while they're out, they're breathing, and some of that dust will come out of their nose that they were injecting and taking it in. Our officers come, and what's the first thing they're gonna do? Is try to do CPR on them, right? Even just chest compressions on their chest, they've got the powder, that powder now starts floating in the air, and now our officers can get exposed to it. So we actually now, unfortunately, we try not to do CPR without 2 officers present, because if one person falls out because of it, you need to have someone else that's there to take care of the officer now. It's that deadly that what we're dealing with right now. So some of the different names. This is where, I guess, for those with kids, this is the part I really want to, kids are doing this, and they don't know what they're getting themselves into. They're taking these pills, they go to these parties, we're finding out, where they have these pill parties, where they'll steal stuff out of their parents' medicine cabinets, and they'll go and they take a bowl, and everybody, what's that? And they'll basically dump everything into it, and then everybody goes around and you take it. The problem is, if someone gets the wrong kind of pill, it could be a deadly dose. And it's all, if you see it, it's on Snapchat, some of those TikTok things, you'll see it. You have to be involved in your kids' lives if you have young kids or teenagers. A lot of these kids have no clue what they're getting themselves into, but they take it, it's like a dare, and they think, oh, all the other kids are doing it. And they're now actually making it to where it draws the kids. They're making the pills in rainbow colors. And they're making them look like candy. They're making them look like nerds, if you guys know what that candy looks like. And they're basically going after these kids. And the reason it's so hard is because the internet, that's how we're getting passed by. It used to be, if you wanted to get drugs back when I worked narcotics, you'd have to go to the corner, find the drug dealer who was working on the corner, give him $20, he'd give you, hand-to-hand transaction, you're on your way. They can go online and have this ordered to their house. And that's the problem. And the tracking for us is so difficult with all the different websites, the dark web, and now even the money transfers, cryptocurrency. They're utilizing that to bypass us. So that's just what people go, why can't you fix this? Well, it's not like what I used to deal with on the corner where I can go arrest the bad guy. The bad guy is probably in India or Mexico or wherever else. He's not necessarily here locally. Now, we do have the local drug dealers here that do it, but again, that's what we're dealing with. So it's kind of crazy. The street names, I put the list out. It's got some interesting ones. I don't know where they come up with this stuff, but Dance Fever, Friend, Goodfellas, Great Bear, Jackpot. I mean, these types of things sometimes draw in the kids because they think it's a cool name and this will be a fun thing to do, right? Little they know, just one time could be the last time that they're going to be dealing with this stuff. So again, I mentioned it's basically like an anesthesia, where we've talked to some folks where they can say that they took it and they were out on the bed. They can remember hearing everything that was kind of going on around them. They're almost just paralyzed. They couldn't do anything. And the problem we run into also is when we bring them back, we utilize a thing called Narcan, which is this. We carry it with us. It's basically a nose spray. And what the nose spray does is, imagine your kids when they were playing. Ellie, come on. When your kids were playing with blocks and you had like the square peg, the round peg, the this peg? Well, what this does basically, the opioids are trying to get to the brain through those different holes. And what this does, it fills the block and blocks it off so it can't get to the brain. It's kind of the easiest way I was explained. So when we go in though, we bring them back to life essentially and we save them. And you know what we get? They want to fight us because they're mad at us because we have literally just taken away their high. They went and spent whatever dollar amount to get that high. Little did they know they were on their deathbed literally, and now they're mad because we brought them back. They were in this peaceful place and now they got a cop standing over them and they want their $80 back for their pill. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So let's see what we got here. As far as I mentioned the investigative challenges, I'm going to do it on a little bit more of a local level here. And these stats I pulled, I'm not 100% because we don't I haven't been tracking them for very long, but in 2022, in our CAD system, I was able to find 69 overdose calls that we responded to. That was in 2022. And we had 13 deployments of these Narcan where we saved someone's life because of it. Okay, you're just a mess. So. And then last year, in 2023, we had 74 calls of overdoses in the city. Think about that. That's what, one every few days, basically, what we're dealing with. And the only way I think there's more, we have to do what's called a special circumstance when you go to these calls. It's a drop-down box, and if the officers don't check the box, sometimes these aren't tracked, so I think it's actually higher than that number. But we saved 14 people with Narcan deployments last year with these things. And I can say several of them, unfortunately, were repeat customers, and they just don't learn, and that's the sad part about it. So basically what we're doing regionally, though, I can tell you it is becoming a priority for Sacramento County. And the DA's office has put together a local task force, and it's got the FBI involved, it's got obviously the district attorney's office, and members of local law enforcement. And what they're doing now is they're trying to put cases on people that are selling these drugs and are knowingly selling it. It's a very difficult case to make, because how do you prove, if you're selling it, Steve, how do I prove Steve knew fentanyl was in the drugs? I was just selling methamphetamine. I had no idea, fentanyl was in there. So that's the difficult thing that we have to deal with and try to figure that out. There are some investigative tools that we're working on, and I can tell you, I know that Placer County, and I believe Folsom, and we will be working on a few ourselves, are now prosecuting for murder charges for the dealers that are selling these to other people and knowingly do it. Again, connecting those dots are very difficult to do. One of the other ways we're trying to combat it is this. If, say, we do arrest someone that's got a bunch of methamphetamine, we know they're a seller, and we arrest them for sales. Part of their probation terms is they will basically explain to them, you realize in today's light, if you're selling these types of drugs and you get caught with them again, they are more likely than not to have fentanyl in them. So if you get caught again with them, then we can go after them a much more serious charge. Basically, it's in their, their release paperwork. It says, this is bad. You know it is bad. Stop doing it. We all know likely it's not going to end up, but it gives us a lot more prosecution power in the future. So again, that's kind of a really high-level way of looking at fentanyl. It's just cheaper to get, the highs way more, and they're putting it in everything. You can smoke it, you can snort it, you can light it and do the fumes. Any way you want it, you can get it. So the biggest common way, though, you'll see is the pills. That's what people are using. So just be very aware of it if you have young kids and you see them around. Don't let the peer pressure get to them. Know who their friends are, know who they're hanging out with, know what websites they're on. That's the other big one. If your kid's got a phone, they're little mini computers, for crying out loud. If they don't let you have access to it, don't pay the bill. I mean, I know that's tough to do. I have 2 young daughters, and that's the way it is. Mom and dad will always have access to those phones. So those are the things I just really want to point across, because I've seen too many kids. We've responded to too many dead bodies of kids that had no idea what they were getting themselves into. So, any questions on fentanyl?
I'm sorry, just a quick question. You were talking about there, like if they go to a party, it's in a bowl. What did you call it? Somebody gave you the name of it.
A fish. Basically, it's just like a candy bowl is what they call it sometimes. A candy. Hey, put your candy in the bowl.
Or a punch bowl.
Punch bowl. Yeah, exactly. And the kids just think, I don't know. I can speak to my younger days. We would raid, mom and dad's maybe liquor cabinet, and everybody would bring a bottle to a party. I never partook in that, I promise, but some people I know did. But they would bring whatever they could find at their parents' house, right? To probably the grossest alcohol your parents didn't want to touch, but to a kid who can't get anywhere else, it's pretty cool and they're going to try it.
The punch bowl or the fish bowl is different than the candy bowl.
There's 2 different types of it, yes.
So just so people know that they mix them in with Skittles and M&Ms and so kids don't even know that they are taking it.
Yeah, there's various ones, whether it's a medication bowl where everybody dumps in,
Yes.
or actual
The
candy bowls where they're doing it and kids will sprinkle them into it. It's wild.
I have 2 more.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Narcan available for public to purchase?
Yes, you can. I don't know the dollar amount. I see a head shaking back there. I know you can.
It could be 20. It could be anywhere from $20 to $40. But if you, there's certain elected officials who have them. Like last night, Sue Frost gave. Actually, it was her speaker, Angela and Daniel Webb with Arrive Alive California, and they give away free Narcan. So there are different different places that will give away free Narcan, so just ask first.
There's also test strips that you can get, you can test for them if you were really that, but I wouldn't want to, if I'm testing for something and I'm that nervous with this stuff, I'm not touching it, and I don't even want to try to run a test strip.
So I have a tow company here in Citrus Heights.
Mhm.
And just last week, another tow company was getting in a vehicle and the driver just opened the door
Mhm.
and down he went.
Got exposed, yeah, absolutely.
And so a lot of these guys are doing this stuff, are drivers at night and nobody's around.
Yeah, it's
So we
scary.
wouldn't find, our drivers
Right.
until the next day.
And that's why we're, not that we don't always try to have 2 officers, but a lot of the stuff we're doing, even like back in the day, like I mentioned when I was a drug guy, I would go back and I could package up the dope and weigh it and I'd put it in the property and evidence and I could do that. We don't do that by ourselves anymore because heaven forbid you get contacted, I mean, they're gonna find you on the floor in there. I was actually talking with one of the guys from DEA and he was telling me, this is likely gonna be, and I'm not trying to be this conspiracy theorist, but this is the next dirty bomb that someone could do. You take this liquid and you take it and you put it in a agricultural spray, the crop planes. Think about what they could do over a crowded,
Wow.
outdoor arena of some sorts. It's wild. And again, that's really kind of out there thinking, but it's not crazy. So that's the scary part of what we're dealing with. So, yeah.
So, I just want everybody to do the research, and they have great research on arrivealiveca.com if you want to educate yourself. Daniel Webb is also a CHP officer who is, he's specialized in drug enforcement.
Yeah.
And so he is especially knowledgeable, but if you're not a little bit scared, you should be. And they are sprinkling fentanyl in everything else that you think might be safe, not pills. Everything else is starting to get contaminated with fentanyl.
Yeah, and
because it's cheap.
And this is a scary one again. I don't want you guys to get, but people have gotten it. You go to a hotel, the guests before you were doing drugs on the bed sheet, on the comforter before you went to the hotel. Then the next thing you know, you lay down on that bed, it's in the air, the powder. That's how people were getting it. People had nothing to do with it, but that really is out there. I'll leave it to find out. My daughter had her volleyball end of the year party on Sunday at a friend's house, and we were over there, and I was talking with one of the other dads. He's a principal at a local high school, not in Citrus Heights, but Sacramento County. And he said this year, he himself as a principal of a high school had done Narcan 4 times on students. That's a principal of a local high school. That's scary. Again, that's not Citrus Heights, but not far. And so just something to think about. It is out there. It is prevalent. Be aware of it. Do your research on it.
Yeah, but I will say, as my final thing about this, I get it. It is scary, but prescription drugs are still clean. Okay, your prescription
Yes.
from your doctor is still clean. Fentanyl affects the mucous membrane, so touch is a lot longer to contaminate you. You have 15 minutes for touch contact. It's when you inhale it
Yes.
that it gets into your mucous membranes, or touch your eyes, your ears.
Just on your skin or whatever, it takes significantly longer. But once it gets into your nose, that's when you run into the problem, obviously.
A couple years ago, I had major surgery, and they used a lot of fentanyl in the surgery. And within, a couple days, I started going through withdrawals.
Oh, absolutely. Well, again, think about morphine. If it's 100 times more addictive
Yeah.
than morphine, that's going to tell you something.
Yeah.
So, scary. Fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. If you guys have any questions you didn't ask, email Bill. I'll follow up and I'll get the information for you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda is the election. And, okay, we're almost on time. Bill wanted me to announce that the goats are back in the area. Their goats are now clearing the weeds out between Twin Oaks and Crestmont. So if you want to see the goats at work, that's where they're working.
They're almost done.
Yeah.
They're almost done. They're the last stage.
Almost done, okay. Good. Good. The other thing we represented
It's so flat. They're in the open area down at the end of area was in Twin Oaks.
Oh, okay.
we were recognized, Woodside and CHASEN was recognized by the San Juan Unified School District as the most valued partner.
Nice.
Kat does a lot of work with Woodside. You know, others of us have helped out, but Kat does a lot of work with them. Let's see. All right, next is our presentation by Luz Marie Robles. Did I pronounce it right?
You did.
She's going to talk to us about the mosquitoes in the area.
Hello. So thank you for having me. I'm definitely not as cute as Ellie, and that was scary.
You're pretty close.
So I got this invitation after I gave a presentation to the Citruside City Council a couple of weeks ago, and they asked, somebody approached me and asked if I could come and speak to your organization. So I am the district's public information officer. How many of you guys knew that we had a mosquito vector control district in our area? Very good. You guys heard of the Fight the Bite campaign and heard like ads on the radio, drink water, wear repellent? Good. So all of those are my efforts. I'm the district's information officer. I've been with the district for, it'll be 17 years in August. So I've been there a long time. I know a thing or two about mosquitoes, so I hope that at the end of the presentation, you guys will leave here with lots of knowledge about mosquitoes, especially as we kind of go into the season. How many of you guys have been bitten already by mosquitoes? Quite a few. I was in Mexico, not last week, but the week before, and I came back with like 5 bites just on this foot. So I know that's not as bad here, but during the summer months, we definitely have and see a lot of mosquitoes and a lot of West Nile virus activity. So with that, we'll get started. Or not? Let's see. Okay. So I wonder if you see that shadow behind. Maybe we get the lights, that will maybe help with the visuals a little bit. So again, we are the agency that's charged with protecting residents against mosquitoes and West Nile virus and other mosquito transmitted diseases. We cover Sacramento and Yolo County, and we operate under the California Health and Safety Code. If I stand here, is that good? I'm not like blocking?
Not sure where the lights are. Oh,
Okay.
Dave, come.
All right, so within California, we have about 50 different mosquito species, 27 just within our 2 counties. And as you know, mosquitoes have different types of behavior. They come from different sources. There you go. They come from different sources. And mosquitoes, even though we do have mosquitoes year round, the peak of mosquito season is typically between, the peak is June, July, August, but we actually start to see mosquitoes as soon as it starts to be warm. So April through October is more or less the mosquito season within this area, even though it seems like every year that season is getting longer and longer, right? But usually those 3 months in the summer are when we see the most activity. Just a very quick review of the mosquito life cycle, because there's so many people that don't know that mosquitoes breed in water. So before mosquitoes fly, they actually grow in water. They have a 4-stage life cycle. 3 of those stages require water. So when a female will look for any area that might have dirty stagnant water, lay her eggs on top of the water in something called an egg raft. Egg rafts can look like the size of a grain of rice. They can look like a little clump of dirt. But in there can be between 50 to 200 eggs. That's how many a female can lay at a time. She can lay eggs 3 times a week, which would explain why we have so many mosquitoes. From the eggs, when the eggs hatch, they hatch into larvae. From there, they turn into a pupa, or what I like to call a mosquito cocoon. And then from there, we have the adult that emerges. So this life cycle depends on temperature. The hotter it is, the quicker they will complete their life cycle. So in the peak of summer, when it's super hot, they can go from an egg to an adult in as little as 4 to 7 days. So not very long. Other times, it depends on temperature. Right now, maybe it might take 7 to 10 days. In the fall, maybe 7 to 14 days, 21 days. So it just depends on, the habitats and temperatures and things like that. But, the main takeaway from this slide is that out of the 4 stages in a mosquito life cycle, 3 of them require water. That's why we're always making the recommendation for people to not have any dirty water around their home, especially around their home. I'll talk about other sources in a bit, but we especially want people to be being cognizant about that. So again, lots of different mosquito habitats. Our district knows where the rice fields are, where the pastures are, the creeks, the rivers. So, you know, all of those can definitely become mosquito breeding sources. But the ones that are the worst for us are the backyard sources. So anything from a plant saucer, a dog dish, a bird bath, a fountain. A neglected pool can produce about 1 million mosquitoes over the course of a summer and affect entire neighborhoods. So a lot of times people will be like, well, I don't have any stagnant water in my house. How come I'm being eaten alive by the mosquitoes? Well, maybe, you know, Joe Smith's 2 blocks from where you live has a pool that looks like that. And the mosquitoes that are coming from that pool fly into your neighborhood. Mosquitoes, depending on the species, some mosquitoes can fly 1 to 2 miles, 5 to 10 miles. So they can definitely fly very far. We have other mosquitoes I'll talk about later that prefer to stay within 150 feet of where they laid their eggs. So again, mosquitoes, depending on their species, can behave very differently. But the main takeaway from this slide is that we have all these types of mosquito breeding sources around our home, and we really, mosquito control is a collaborative effort between our district and homeowners, right? So at least once a week, we ask that people look around their yard, that they dump out any stagnant water, especially early in the season, like right now, right? A couple weeks ago, I know that it rained really hard, like on a weekend. That's when I was on vacation. So my husband, who had not gone with us, said that it rained a lot, and then like when we came back, it was like 90 degrees. So that combination of the stagnant water and the very warm temperatures is what creates the ideal mosquito breeding conditions, and honestly, it just kind of gives mosquitoes a head start. So back in the day before I started this job, I didn't even think about that, right? It's like, you know, nice spring, it's nice that it's kind of, we're getting some late rains and we're not really ready for the heat. But now it's like, oh my goodness, it's raining and now it's really hot. Now it's going to create a lot of mosquitoes and a lot of work for me. And it just, it's not a good combination to have. So, you know, again, if you could be diligent, or we ask that people please do their part and drain out any sources of stagnant water, because even a small amount of water is enough to create mosquitoes. So what do we do with the district to control mosquitoes? We do what we call an integrated mosquito management approach, which includes, first of all, public information and education, advertising. So I'm the communication manager for the district, so I'm in charge of everything that has to do with educating the public. You know, all of our outreach materials, we go to a lot of events. I write all of our press releases, I do all of our news interviews, I'm in most of our ads. So it's my job to make sure that we're educating, talking to residents about what they can do to make sure that they're reducing mosquitoes around their home. We have a big laboratory surveillance program. We have one of the biggest labs in California when it comes to mosquito control. They're in charge of tracking West Nile virus activity, seeing how and where it's moving. So they set out mosquito traps, they collect them, they collect the mosquitoes from the traps, then they bring them back to the lab and test them. So that's how we know where and how West Nile virus activity is developing. So typically at the very beginning of the season, there's like birds that die of West Nile virus, right? Birds such as jays, crows, magpies, finches. People call in those dead birds. We pick them up and then we test them. If they test positive, then what we do is we trap, like let's say we found a bird here, then we would set mosquito traps around a 1 mile radius of where that bird was found. We collect those mosquitoes and we test them. If they test positive, then we do more trapping. So lo and behold, you know, after a couple of weeks, that's how we see the like hotspots developing, and then that's how we know where to concentrate our efforts in terms of spraying, door-to-door activity, things like that. Does that make sense? So again, that's because of all the work the laboratory does. The lab also does a lot of work with ticks because we do have Lyme disease in this area. So there's several types of ticks, but the ticks that transmit Lyme, it's one specific species, a black-legged tick. So we have 20 sites around Sacramento and Yolo County, mainly like around the American River Parkway, Nimbus Hatchery, different types of big popular trails where we basically collect ticks and then we test them for Lyme disease. and every year we find them. So this year we have found a lot of nymphs that have tested positive for Lyme disease, and actually yesterday I did a little news piece out at the American River, like Upper Sunrise area with Channel 3 about ticks, because May is Lyme Awareness Month.
What was the first thing you said besides ticks?
Nymphs?
Nymphs?
Nymph?
Nymphs. So basically, a nymph is like a baby tick,
Oh, okay.
like an immature stage of an adult tick.
Thank you.
All right, so our fisheries program. So mosquito fish, they help us control mosquitoes naturally. Back at our El Grove facility, we have 23 ponds that look like that, where we rear mosquito fish. And mosquito fish, we give them free to people that have a pond, a fountain, a horse trough. We put them in rice fields, we put them in creeks. Anything that holds water is a good home for these fish, because they need minimal care. They'll eat other things that might be in the water. And each mosquito fish can eat between 200 to 300 larvae per day. So again, they're very effective at helping us control mosquitoes naturally, and it's one of our free services that we offer to the public. Our ecological management department, basically this is the department that has heavy machinery, and we work very closely with landowners to make sure that they're not producing mosquitoes on their property. So that's that department. And then our control operations, that's basically like our boots on the ground. These are our field technicians that are out conducting service requests. So for instance, if you have a lot of mosquitoes around your home, you don't know where they're coming from, you can call us and we'll come out and do a free home service inspection, provide recommendations, maybe do some like barrier sprays around your home, or depending on what we find, then we'll just give you recommendations as to what you can do differently to make sure that you're not breeding mosquitoes around your property. Also, if there's a lot of mosquitoes in any given area, when we do truck spraying, then these would be our field guys would be the ones that would be in charge of doing the field spraying. Whenever there's a lot of West Nile virus activity in any given area, we do conduct large-scale urban aerial spraying. We don't do that all the time, and people always tell me, is there a schedule for spraying? Is there a schedule? When is there going to be spraying? Can you come spray? And it's very difficult balancing act, because there's some people that they don't like the sprays, and we understand that. But then there's other people that are like begging us to come spray where they live, because there's a lot of mosquitoes. We do a lot of agricultural spraying of the rice, like say like between the Sacramento Airport and Woodland, or say between Davis and West Sacramento. There's lots of pockets that have lots and lots of rice. I live in Natomas, literally across the rice field. This was before I worked in mosquito control. Now maybe I wouldn't have got my house there. But there's many areas where there's just a lot of mosquitoes that need to be treated, right? So we definitely do a lot of routine ag spraying, but in terms of putting up an airplane and flying over a city, that is all dictated by the amount of West Nile virus activity that we find in any given area. We don't do that all the time, but last year was a very intense West Nile virus year, and we did have to do an urban aerial application over the city of Davis and the city of Woodland. The year before that we had to do that was back in 2018, when we had to do some aerial spraying over the pocket, and then also in El Grove. So again, all of that is driven by the amount of West Nile virus activity that we're finding. So mosquitoes that test positive for the disease, dead birds, and just concentration of West Nile virus activity. And I'll talk more about that. So again, what types of diseases can mosquitoes carry? West Nile virus is the most prevalent disease, but every year we do see these other diseases that are either travel related, are very common in other parts of the world, but here, because we have a mosquito controlled district, we don't see, outbreaks of these diseases. So West Nile virus symptoms. So 80% of people will have West Nile virus and not even know that they had it. Your body will just kind of get rid of it on its own. 20% of people will develop the West Nile virus fever. So fever, headache, fatigue, swollen lymph nodes, swelling around your eyes, etc. And then 1 in 150 people develop the very severe form of the disease, which are the cases that often lead to death. So these are the ones, so 1 in 150 people develop like the meningitis, the encephalitis, the very complicated cases, typically in older populations or people that have a compromised immune system. So last year, this map here you can see, last year, out of the 16 years that I've been with the district, 2023 was one of the most, definitely the highest number of adult or human cases of West Nile virus, right? So in comparison to previous years, last year was just what we call like a banner year. So 53 and 39 cases. So 53 human cases in Sacramento County, 5 fatalities, 39 cases in Yolo County, 3 fatalities. So you can see that last year compared to the previous years was just, you know, a huge spike in the amount of West Nile virus activity. And you can see that there was a lot of activity. So all the red dots are mosquito pools or groups of mosquitoes that tested positive. And then the yellow triangles are dead birds. So you can see that there was a big concentration of West Nile virus activity in the city of Davis and other areas, but we ended up having to do some aerial spraying over the city of Davis. But you can see that just throughout both of our counties, there was a tremendous amount of activity for West Nile virus last year. This year, you know, it looks like we might have another busy year just based on, you know, the late rains and how hot it's been and just trends. There are, like our lab director is predicting another intense year, but I hope not, because it's just really stressful during, you know, if there's a lot of activity, it's just go. And, you know, plus it's our job to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to reduce, especially the human cases. Statewide numbers, there were 428 confirmed human cases in California, 19 fatalities. But the CDC indicates that for every case that's confirmed, there's 30 to 70 cases that go unreported. So in reality, that number is probably a lot higher. All right, so aside from West Nile virus and those mosquitoes, we have a new concern, which are invasive mosquitoes. So these mosquitoes are different than our native mosquitoes because not only do they look differently, these are small, dark, aggressive, day-biting mosquitoes. Our native mosquitoes primarily, usually they bite at dawn and dusk. These guys, they prefer to bite people, whereas the native mosquitoes usually, they bite people, but they prefer to bite birds. These are the ones that I was telling you that they prefer to stay very close to where they lay their eggs, so they don't fly very far. Also, these guys lay their eggs individually, not in a raft. These guys will lay eggs not on top of the water, but along the edges of containers. So if you have like a plant saucer, like right here, they would lay their eggs along the edge of that water line, not necessarily on top of the water. And then, you know, the worst part is that once those eggs are laid, even if that container goes dry, the eggs will still be dormant and they will still be alive. Like they'll basically be waiting for that container to be refilled with water and then they'll hatch. Does that make sense? So once we find these mosquitoes in any given area, they're very difficult to control because they can breed in as little as a teaspoon of water. Okay, so very, you know, they don't need very much water. You can see that photo that has a water cap. You know, so basically any container, any small container around your home that maybe fills with sprinkler water, maybe anything that has even small amounts of water would be enough to breed these mosquitoes. And unfortunately, these mosquitoes are the ones that can transmit those exotic diseases, the Zika, the dengue, the chikungunya. So these don't transmit West Nile virus, but these transmit these other diseases. So the risk is that, you know, once those mosquitoes are established in any given place, that then there's a risk for like local transmission of these diseases. Every year we do see these diseases from people that travel, become sick wherever they travel, and they come here and then they're diagnosed here. But like for instance, you know, I'll kind of give you an example. We actually had a really big scare. So I told you guys that I was in Mexico, right? In an area where these mosquitoes are very, very prominent. And we had to come back on Monday. My son had 20 mosquito bites just on his back. The next day after we got back, he woke up with like 104 fever, headache, nausea, diarrhea. I seriously thought that he had dengue because my daughter was like, I saw those mosquitoes that have those stripes. So that's how we recognize, or that's how those mosquitoes are characterized. They're small, dark mosquitoes with the white bands. So she's like, I saw that mosquito on me, I know. So I knew that immediately it was an Aedes aegypti. So I was really scared, and we actually ended up taking them to the emergency room because when we called the advice nurse, they're like, yeah, based on your symptoms, based on what you're telling me, it could be that they have dengue. Luckily, it was, it turned out to be just some kind of stomach virus, but we were actually really scared. But like, let's say that they did have dengue, right? So we live in Natomas, that these mosquitoes are very active in South Natomas. So once you have somebody that is sick with dengue, all it would be for one of these mosquitoes to bite that person. The mosquito gets infected, that mosquito bites another person, and that's how you get like outbreaks of local virus transmission. And last year, for the very first time in California ever, there were locally acquired cases in Southern California. So these are people that had not traveled, and there were 2 cases, one in Long Beach and one in Pasadena, and they were people that had not traveled yet they were diagnosed with dengue. So originally these mosquitoes were first found and only found in Northern California, in Southern California, since 2011, but then they started moving slowly upward, and then we found them for the first time here in 2019, and then ever since they've been spreading to just different areas. So some of the common mosquito breeding sources, as I told you, so anything that holds water is a mosquito breeding source for specifically these types of mosquitoes, especially like, small sources like, plant axles, lucky bamboo plants. There was a lady that had moved here from Southern California, and she had brought all her plants with her, and then she called us and said, I don't know why I'm getting so many mosquito bites inside my house. Well, we went and we conducted an inspection, and her lucky bamboo plant that had a little bit of water, that was what was breeding the mosquitoes. So that's why the plant was in her kitchen and she was getting bitten. But again, somebody made a service request, we came out, we conducted an inspection, and then that's what we found. So again, these are just some of the things that we're finding. These mosquitoes are really small, you can see. So whenever we find these mosquitoes, what we do is we go door to door. We ask people to let us in their backyard for us to be able to make inspections, because we know that these mosquitoes aren't flying very far. So typically, when we go to a neighborhood, if one neighbor has them, likely the neighbors around will also have it, because we know that they don't fly very far. Unlike our native mosquitoes, which definitely do fly far. And I know it's kind of hard, because to most people, a mosquito is a mosquito. All you want to do is just kill it, right? You don't really care what it is, what kind it is, but mosquitoes behave very differently based on their species. Only the female mosquitoes bite, the males don't bite, but that's just some of their characteristics. And also the females live longer, unfortunately. Alright, so detection of invasive mosquitoes. We have both species. For many years, we only had the one species, the Aedes aegypti, but 2 years ago we detected Aedes albopictus, the very dark, the dark black one. But now we have areas throughout both of our county that has both species. Our biggest infestation areas are South Natomas. We have a big infestation in the Arden Arcade, a big infestation in Rosemont, South Sacramento. We had found some invasive mosquitoes here in Citrus Heights. It was actually our very first detection area, very close to our border with Placer County. But then we found them 1 year, and then we've been trapping, and then we haven't found them anymore. But they could potentially still be here. It's just a matter of how we found them or not. Typically people don't. A lot of people definitely do call us if they're being bitten by mosquitoes, but then there's a lot that don't. So oftentimes if people don't call us, then there's no reason for us to go and focus our efforts in a neighborhood unless we get calls. Alright, so some recommendations is, again, aside from just draining that water, important to remove saucers from under the plants. So these mosquitoes, it doesn't matter if you dump the water. It's also important to scrub down containers. It's important to not move containers around. It's important to not share plants. you know, how often do you go to somebody's house and you're like, oh my gosh, what a cute little plant. And then they're like, oh, here, you can take it home, right? And then that's how the mosquitoes are moving from one place to another. Or these mosquitoes can be sneaky. Like, for instance, my parents live in Winters in Gill County, where they have a very big infestation of these mosquitoes. I could easily, you know, go visit my parents, roll down my windows, a mosquito gets in my car, you know, I close my windows, I come back home to Thomas, roll my windows down, that mosquito flies out, and then, you know, that's how mosquitoes are definitely getting around. That's how we think that they're traveling. They're very avid hitchhikers, and you know, that's why it's important to like not share plants, try not to empty containers. It's important to scrub down containers as best as you can, and then again, just ensuring that you don't have any stagnant water. Rooting plants are a very big, what do you call it? They're bad. I can't think of the word, but we do find a lot of mosquito larvae in like people's homes where they have like just spaces that they're rooting their own plants. So usually we recommend that people don't do that. Alright, so lastly, what can you do? These are what we call our District D, the mosquito prevention. So again, draining that stagnant water, avoiding dawn and dusk for the regular mosquitoes. With the invasives, that recommendation, these are recommendations more for like our regular mosquitoes, but dressing in long sleeves and pants if you can, even though it's really hot. But if it's too hot, then always making sure, especially if you're gonna be spending time outdoors from now until, you know, fall, it's important to always protect yourself with a good mosquito repellent, not only if you're going camping, not only if you're hiking, but just, you know, even just on a daily basis, if you're gonna go walk the dog, if your kids are gonna be playing at the park or Little League or whatever. So we do offer free mosquito repellent wipes. So if you guys have like the city, they're having a movie in the park, concert in the park, Parks and Rec, organizations that deal with, you know, that help out the homeless populations, we do offer these mosquito repellent wipes. I brought some with you guys to share, and then we can give more to these, specifically to these agencies. Also, you know, making sure that you're closing the doors so mosquitoes don't come in your house, and then also call the district. So, you know, we're here to help, we're here to serve you guys. Our district funds come from property taxes, so every time you guys pay for your property taxes, about $15 goes to fund our district. We're a special district. People always ask, you know, like, are you part of the city or the county? Neither. We're a special district, just like the water districts, the fire districts. So again, that's why, thank you. That's why it's important that you give us a call if you're having any mosquito-related issues, okay? And then also, if you guys have other community groups that you belong to, a Kiwani, a Rotary, Seroptimus, any other group, I'm happy to come on and do more presentations, you know, to those groups. I can make this presentation a lot shorter or a lot longer. I'm happy to speak to anybody that will listen to me, really. You know, again, thank you guys for having me tonight, and I'd be happy to take any questions if there's still time for that.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay.
I have two quick questions.
Uh-huh.
When you do a community event, I thought I saw this before, do you have interactive games or educational activities for the youth that may be attending that event?
Maybe not the youth, but every time we go out to an event, we do bring like a table that, we do bring like a live mosquito life cycle display, we do bring the fish, we do bring a bug box, we do bring like a heartworm. You know, we have like little like swag that we give out, like activity books and pens and pencils, cups, things like that. So, you know, but yeah, definitely people find our booth educational whenever we are at events here in Citrus Heights. We usually do Sunday Fun Day. We were just at the arcade trail opening here not that long ago. How many of you guys know Dr. Jana, who sits on the council? She's our board representative. So yeah, she's always a very big advocate for our district.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be.
One second question.
Yes.
A lot of people are sensitive or hesitant to put a chemical on their skin, especially if you kind of hear of anything that's an insect respect. Is there a natural oil or natural plant? I know geraniums, mosquitoes don't like geraniums. That's why in the cities you used to see the geranium pot on the windowsill to prevent the mosquitoes. Do you know of something that can be used instead of that would be a natural product?
So usually if you go to like Lowe's, Home Depot's, Green Acres, and you tell them you want some like, plants that help with mosquitoes, they would probably recommend like either citronella or like rosemary I've seen so they could probably be able to give you some recommendations for plants. In terms of something to put on your skin, for people that I totally understand, people not wanting to use DEET or picaridin. So oil of lemon eucalyptus is what the CDC recommends. But there's so oil of lemon eucalyptus, it already comes as a formulation for mosquito repellent. But I've seen lots of other just natural ones that are like plant-based. They have like geranium oil, soybean oil, lavender. So honestly, it's like our job is not to promote a specific brand of repellent. I have like the wipes that we give, they're called Benza, so it's a DEET-based 30% wipe. But whenever people always ask me like, which one is the best repellent? It's like, the best repellent is one that you're actually going to use. Repellent comes in different formulations. It comes in powders and towelettes and lotions and oils. So find one that you like and use it, but always like look on the label, because like 30% basically, think of it like sunscreen. So mosquito repellent usually comes in formulation of like 5, 10, 15, 30, 40. So the higher the percentage, the longer it will keep you protected. Does that make sense? So if you go like to Africa, if you go hiking in the deep woods, you need something that gives you longer protection. So 40% would be adequate. If you're just gonna go walk the dog, then something that has 5% is more than enough.
Okay, good info, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I have something to add to that too.
Okay.
I know for a fact that garlic is really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all you have to do is eat a little garlic and they will just stay away from you.
It might make people stay away from you too, but that's
Right, everyone will stay away from you. But I do have another,
garlic is what
I do have a question
Uh-huh.
too. So I live on,
Necklace, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I live on a creek and the water's not flowing all year round. And so there's pockets all over in my backyard. And so what can I do? Can I come in and get mosquito fish or something?
So that creek likely already has mosquito fish. I mean, I know around Citrus Heights here, like there's Cripple
I was
Creek
told
and
they're not doing it anymore because the water's not flowing.
Oh.
It stops flowing about May.
I don't know, honestly. I mean, like people are not able to come and pick up fish from our district, but we would deliver the fish. The reason why is because we found out that people were misusing the fish as like fishing bait for and we also need to keep like a strict record of where these fish are going. But I know for a fact that most of the creeks with the flowing water are definitely stocked with the fish. But if you know that creek is not flowing, then it would maybe be good to give us a call and provide us like the name of that creek, or even your address, and then somebody could come out and make an inspection. Because if there's no fish, maybe they could just do a treatment on that water, especially those pockets that are not moving.
Because I have a drain pipe that comes right into my backyard and that creek. And so there's always water in this little puddle. And there's no water anywhere else, but it's always in there, and I don't know what to do with that.
I mean, and sometimes too, like if you go to like Lowe's or Home Depot, they can give you like little granule things that you can put in that water, which are like just basically like we call them kind of like mosquito dunks, but they also have them in granules, and you can just sprinkle them, and they are good for 30, 60, 90 days depending on the product.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I just brought a couple who doesn't like swag, right? So these are the wipes. These are the wipes I was telling you guys about. So each wipe is 30% DEET, about 4 to 6 hours of protection. Again, we give these free to any outdoor evening events. I do come to National Night Out, if, depending on where we have our West Virus activities. So we have these that we can give out, just little magnetic, like notepads, little chip clips, things like that. So if you guys are interested, I will leave these here. And then if they're for any like home service requests, you can either go on our website, fightthebuy.net, or just give us a call, and our number is right here. And then again, if there's anybody that you think that would benefit from this presentation, but let me know. Bill and Dave know how to get a hold of me. Usually, I'm happy to come on and speak in the evenings too, or I love like the Robles, the Kiwanis, because they feed me. And then, and so anyway, so that was just a joke. Sometimes
Jane, you
I'm
have
like,
a few minutes to give us a report on the city council.
I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was great.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I haven't been out to give a report for a few months, so thank you for having me. I wanted to give you highlights of all of our city council meetings and just kind of the high points of what happened for each meeting. The last time I reported to you included February 8th meeting, so I'm just gonna go running down the line and talking about all the meetings and their high points that you would probably be interested in. So I also write a written report that I submit that can be distributed, and hopefully you see those whenever I report out, because I do like to include links so that you can see what I'm talking about. I'm not just telling you, you can see it on our website. So February 8th, we all attended our neighborhood engagement community workshop. That was so much fun. We got so many great ideas. And whenever the city council members are invited to any one community event where it looks like we're congregating together, we have to notice the public, because we actually can't do that unless it's a dinner. But if we look like we're doing work together, we have to notice the public, and so that was officially one of our special meetings. The 22nd, February 22nd, we had 2 items of interest, both relating to money. One was item number 5, our quarterly treasurer's report. And item number 6, very similar, annual comprehensive financial report. For those of you who've never looked at our popular financial reports, that is a thing of beauty. It's a threefold financial information about where our money goes in the city. And it's really important because this is our first year of getting property tax dollars. It's very important that you know where your money's going. You want to know what we're spending it on and exactly how much we get, because it's not a lot. But we do a lot with it. So we're very excited to share that with you. March 14th, we had item 11, very, very hot topic, the Education Committee report. If you recall, we had several conversations about, should we set up our own school district? And we had a whole committee created to have that discussion, do the research, and they came back and reported all of their findings, and it was a very, very long meeting with lots of public comment, which is very important because we want to hear from our community members to hear what they think is going on. And I'm proud to say that our particular community is very involved with the school, and that's why I see we received an award from Woodside. And that's what I recommend as a city council member. I recommend the activity that we do with our one school that everyone else do with their school as their first or main activity that they do with their area groups. Because I think it's very, very powerful when you stay connected to the young people and young families in your community. It does not matter how long ago your kids were in school or you were a teacher or what have you, but those students and those families desperately need the community to surround them, love on them, help them read, help listen to them read, because our kids and families need you. So Education Committee report, the result of that was the council voted to go with the committee's recommendation of continuing to strengthen our partnership with San Juan Unified School District, which is very important because they have now doubled down their commitment to us. And we are very excited about that because that's what we really wanted, special attention as one of their rare cities in their school district. And so we got what we wanted, and we want to continue to foster that good relationship. March 28th, we do a couple things that are really special and important in our city that help plan the next few years. And one of them, besides a great financial report, is our strategic planning workshop. If you have never participated in that, at least come in for the first hour or two of it. It's very, very informative. What we do in those few hours in that day sets the pace for the next year or 3 years, depending on what we're working on for that strategic plan. And you get to speak at that meeting, just like every other meeting that the city council attends. So I encourage, this is how I started knowing more about what's going on in my city. I started attending the big planning and saying, hey, you know, I heard about this beautification crew. I really encourage that. I really like that. So you can say thumbs up or thumbs down on a plan that you've seen or heard about. And that is a very important meeting. So we have our strategic plan. I have a link on my sheet about that. I have a link on my sheet about the budget documents. April 11th. Okay, so we talked about strategic planning objectives. This is where we had our strategic planning meeting, and then we officially put forth our objectives for the public to review, and then that gets voted on and approved. So that was adopted at the March 11th meeting. Item 9, and I like to be very, very transparent, and so I'm putting these items in front of you to highlight them because I think they're important for me to know and for you to know, because I'm just like you, I wanna know. So item 9 was a one-time payment of $20,000 to our city manager. He has made an incredible contribution to our city by his professionalism, what he has brought as far as really managing our staff well. He has reorganized our staff and our budget, and so we gave him a bonus. So I just want to be very upfront and transparent with that, because you may ask, and yes, we did give him a bonus. Did you have a question?
No, that just seems like a lot of money for a bonus for a city or a personnel that we're already paying.
Yeah, you know, and that is feedback that we've received, but it's his second year. He's under contract. He only has a 3-year contract with us, and God help us, you know, we can't lose this city manager. He has done more in his first 2 years than I think we have ever seen in the last few years. So, you know, and it sounds like a lot, but trust me, if you've ever had your taxes.
It's not one of the highest paid managers.
Yeah, he's not. You know, he's come in to a fairly mid to low level salary for city managers. So we want to make it worth his time.
Yeah.
Right? Ash, yeah, Ash.
Yes.
Item number 13, same meeting on April 11th. We had a lot of big issues on April 11th. We started the discussion on we finally ended the discussion of the cannabis dispensaries. And that was to defer because we clearly do not have enough information on the issue to approve something like that. That was a big discussion in our community, and we finally decided, you know what, we can't spend any more staff time on this because there's too many factors to find out. Okay. April 25th, item number 7, and again, full transparency, council compensation will be increased to $1,300 per month upon the addition of a new council member or the re-election of a council member. So nobody got it now, and it's an interesting process, right? Because you think, well, you're just voting in your own raises. That's not true. We actually have to be re-elected first. And until someone joins our city council or becomes re-elected, nobody receives it, right? So we have to all wait till an election to receive the new compensation level. The current compensation is $600 per month, and that has not changed since the early 80s. So that was interesting for me, because I'm like, how do people live? You know? And the interesting conversation about that was, who do you attract when you compensate someone at this level, $600? You know, you need to appeal to a very broad swatch of people, and those people are working, and can they really sacrifice days off to attend different meetings that occur all during the day and night and weekends at the sacrifice of either their actual day job or their family or other responsibilities? And so the governor finally decided that, yeah, we need to change that law and everybody needs a raise. We don't have a full-time council, and you should be thankful for that, because I don't think anybody working this as a job does a good job.
I think we should live under the conditions that we decide, right?
They also did a really good presentation explaining why it was appropriate to do it. I mean, to the city council, whoever the person was, I don't remember.
Yeah,
But
Amy
they
Van did
explained
that.
how through the years, things just kind of sat stagnant with city council salary.
Yeah.
While other cities continued to, bump salaries through the years and Citrus Heights didn't. So,
Yeah.
at first I was going, what are you doing, giving yourself a raise? But then when I thought about his presentation, it made sense.
Yeah, thank you for that. But again, all of this is public information. You can look at the detail and data for yourself. I welcome that, because you may have questions that I didn't cover here, or don't know all the minute data on it. Okay, let's see. April 25th, item 11, big news. Our council meetings are gonna change in July to the Wednesdays rather than those second and fourth Thursdays. They're switching to Wednesdays. And our planning commission will be meeting on Tuesday. So that's kind of the domino effect of us moving. And that was because several important regional activities happen on Thursday evenings that we were unable to participate in as a council. And our city manager also was invited to participate on a very important board that he was not able to say yes to until we made this change. And so we want our staff to participate in their professional development and other opportunities to talk about Citrus Heights in the greater region, and not have this as a barrier. So we're happy to change that, but that's not happening till July. If you ever get the chance to look up this this recording of the meeting on April 25th, item 12 was our annual report from our police department. Very, very well done, but a little bit lengthy. So you'll want to watch it on video, get your snack and popcorn ready. Chief Turcotte did an amazing, thorough job, and you'll want to see what are we doing in our city as far as police enforcement and focus. Getting caught up to May 9th, item 9, we did authorize the execution of those agreements to finally begin to work on phase 2 of Auburn Boulevard Complete Streets. Item 10 was the conversation, the question was, should we disband or dissolve our planning commission? And the answer was no. Short and sweet. We appreciate our planning commission. We want them to have more work in the future, and we're working very, very hard to give them more work to do. And if you know of anyone any business who wants to move into Citrus Heights, please have them call the city. We are so interested in entertaining all questions for, do you have space for this kind of business? Well, let's take a look at that. Our economic development director, Megan Huber, is very interested in talking to every interested party who's willing to come into Citrus Heights to do business. Last announcements, May 23rd is our next meeting, this Thursday. I am assigned to a few boards and commissions. The public library always meets on the 4th Thursday as well at 3 o'clock. You can tune into that via Zoom if you're ever interested. A passion project of mine is serving on our Citrus Heights Chamber, the Government Affairs Committee. So I'm the Government Affairs Committee Chair, and we meet every first Thursday at 7:30 a.m. via Zoom. But here's something new that we're doing. If you have a question for a government official or special utility representative, all the way up to the federal level, this is your forum, and I have a link to that form that you can ask your questions, and it asks you to just identify who do you think needs to answer this question for you. And if you don't know, and we don't, at the end of the day, read the questionnaire and you don't have the right person indicated, we will forward it to the right person. And we plan to live answer questions on our meetings and record that for everyone to see, and just record the answers to the questions that we're getting from our community, from our business owners, because everybody has a stake in what's going on in government affairs, whether it's our SMUD or special utility, as Luz Maria was saying. You know, we have access at this forum to get those questions answered, and the rest are for your calendar, which I'm just gonna rattle them off. You don't need to write it down, because I'm gonna forward this to Bill. June 6th, we are restarting City Scoop. If you like ice cream like I do, our first one is June 6th, 6 p.m., Sylvan Oaks Library. June 13th and 27th are our regular city council meetings. Remember, they're still on Thursday because it's June. And June 29th, this is the biggie. June 29th, we're gonna have our Stars and Stripes celebration again at Van Maren Park. We plan to be at Van Maren Park until we're busting at the seams and need to find a new location. So we're very, very excited about that, but that's on June 29th. Any other questions? Comments? Heckles?
Is Van Maren Park that park by City Hall?
Yes. Yeah, that's the one. The long, skinny one. Yeah. Yeah.
Marjane, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
We have a drawing now for the door prize.
And National Night Out. National Night
Gotta
Out.
remind them about National Night Out real quick.
Sure, real quick. National Night Out is coming up in August. August 6th at CRC Park. It's a place where we had it last year. We had a lot of fun last year. We're gonna have a lot of fun this year too. Have booths and a lot of things for the kids to do. We've tried to make it child friendly last year, and we're gonna continue that theme to make sure that the kids have something to do while they're. You're gonna have the big slide again and a lot of things. Anyway, it's August 6th.
And if anybody knows anybody that does face painting, or we're looking for face painters.
Okay. You finished?
Sure, I'm
Okay.
done.
Okay, we have 2 door prizes tonight. One is courtesy of DiMattei Real Estate. Thank you. The last 4 digits, 8063.
All right. Yeah.
I feel bad. I shouldn't take your prize, and I'm all here.
Well, you're giving us prizes too, so it's all right.
You deserve it, it's okay.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, this wasn't rigged.
Nice, very rich. Thank you.
All right, next one. Okay, last 4 digits, 8059.
All right, thanks again for everybody for coming. One more thing. Next month, Sergeant Schaefer, the Citrus Heights Police Department, is going to talk about fraud, especially online fraud and senior fraud. Apparently there's an influx of that going on, and me being a senior, I'm interested in that, so we'll find out a little bit from them what's going on now and how do we combat it. So that's next month. Thank you all for coming.